So as the administration eyes the Windy City possibly as its next target for a crime crackdown, stepped up immigration operations could be on the way there as well. The border czar, Tom Homan, telling reporters this morning a quote unquote large contingent of immigration officers could be headed to Chicago soon for ICE operations. It's part of a push to increase immigration actions in some of the country's biggest so-called sanctuary cities. So what are we about to see here, potentially in the upcoming days and weeks? With me now, Ron Vitiello, Senior Advisor for Customs and Border Protection, with us once again tonight here on the Hill. Ron, thanks for being with us. We heard from Tom Homan about this naval base in Chicago, north of downtown there on the lake, that could be used for immigration detention. What's the vision there? What can you tell us about it?
Well, the Department of Defense has been helping CBP at the physical border and helping ICE in the interior as well. So protecting our agents while they worked in Los Angeles, as an example, and so using them or having military space to house detainees like we're doing in El Paso on Fort Bliss. This is consistent with where we're going on the ICE, where ICE is going on their side to scale up the detention and removal operations, including interior arrests.
So, but what about this site there in Chicago? How big could this be? What's sort of the bigger vision here?
Well, there's millions of people who live in Chicago, and it's a lot of territory to cover. So when and if DHS and ICE deploy there, they're going to need sufficient resources, both for the agents and the officers that are working there, as well as the people they take into custody.
You say when and if. Do you have a sense of when the when might be?
I have no idea. But this is going to happen in every city in America, right? Why are we doing this? During the previous administration, their own records say 11 million people came into the United States. The secretary himself said 85% of them were released into the United States. That's why this is ongoing. The president ran on securing the border and having the largest deportation effort we've ever seen. This is part and parcel of what will happen, not just in Chicago. We saw it in LA. We see it now in DC. That's part of the deployment now. And it'll be that way in every other city in America.
I just wonder if this naval base that's going to be used potentially for immigration efforts there is just sort of setting up this larger operation in Chicago, whether it be immigration efforts or crime with the National Guard.
Well, it depends on what happens, right? Because they're going to go out there, they're going to deploy. These teams are going to go out and look for the worst of the worst in neighborhoods around Chicago, around like they did in LA, like they're going to do in New York. And so having resources at the base or have the base warmed up for resources is just proper planning.
We heard from Gavin Newsom today, the California governor. I want to play a little bit for you what he said and get your reaction on the other side.
If the president is sincere about the issue of crime and violence, there's no question in my mind that he'll likely be sending the troops into Louisiana and Mississippi to address the unconscionable wave of violence that continues to plague those states.
What would you say to the governor there?
Well, I think he needs to concentrate on the job he has right now, which is being the governor of California. We know that they have real issues with homelessness and crime in Los Angeles. I don't think he's in a place to tell the president how to secure anything.
But I think it gets to the question of how this administration chooses where it goes and when.
Well, they went to Los Angeles to protect federal assets and federal agents that were performing their legal duties inside of the city.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there. Ron Vitiello, Senior Advisor to the administration. Ron, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice to see you as always. All right. So across the country, law enforcement ramping up, including, as you just heard there, in California, where the Democratic governor could be pulling, I guess you could call it, a hard right turn. Newsom announcing today that he is deploying, quote unquote, crime suppression teams across the state. Now, they'll focus on some of the biggest cities and areas out there in California, including San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento, and throughout the Bay Area. The governor saying today the teams use data to suppress crime in some areas, conduct operations to disrupt organized crime, increase presence in the state's most crime-ridden communities, support local law enforcement, for example, and create strict accountability across the state. Here's what he said in part earlier today.
Success is a direction. There is no having made it as it relates to the issue of crime suppression. That's why in California we continue to build on not just these partnerships, but over $1.7 billion of resources that we have provided under our public safety plan in this state since 2019.
All right, with me now, former D.C. Democratic Party Chairman, News Nation contributor Scott Bolden, and former senior aide to Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Lynda Tran. Hello to you both.
Hello.
Thanks for being with me. I get this email dropped into my inbox, Lynda, this afternoon. Gavin Newsom deploys new teams to fight crime in major California cities, building on successful efforts. And I'm going, wait a minute here. Is he trying to parlay off of the thing that Donald Trump is talking about right now? What's going on?
Well, so I wish I had talked to his team and heard more about their strategy. But from the outside, what I think is happening is he's trying to pull back this whole framing about being tough on crime. Okay. I will point out, though, this is not the first time that Governor Newsom has decided to do this sort of increased presence and this approach on crime. They did the same thing in San Bernardino late last year and had some good results there, which he also touted.
Well, it's not about Trump, actually. I think it makes good politics and good policy for the governor. He's doing what he's supposed to do. The Democrats don't want crime to be run rampant in Democratic or red states, quite frankly. They want to continue to push for safe neighborhoods and for people to feel safe. And so this idea, the Trump narrative about we're going to put ICE agents down there to fight crime, that means that everyone who's in this country illegally is a violent criminal, and that's just not the case.
What Gavin Newsom is doing here is he's expanding the deployment of the California Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
So you're good with it if it's the Highway Patrol, but not good with it if it's ICE and the National Guard? Is it sort of pick your agency?
I'm good with the state agencies in that surge. If Donald Trump called up Gavin Newsom and said, listen, we want to help, we want to partner with you and work with you on strategically placing federal agents to support what you're doing to keep crime down and make Americans feel safe, I don't think that he would have a problem with that.
Why aren't you good with the federal agencies?
I'm not good with the federal agencies because with Donald Trump comes chaos and how he implements it. Just like how he's implementing the anti-immigration policy, people don't want people who are not violent criminals to be hustled off the street and taken to far-off places with no identification and no idea on when they're going to come back. If all they did was come here illegally and haven't committed a crime, we don't need federal ICE agents to be masked and be taking people off the street. Those people are waiting for hearings, most of them. Most of them are waiting for hearings, and they got a right to wait for those hearings.
There's also just a difference, too, between deploying the National Guard, which is explicitly legally not supposed to be deployed as a civilian law enforcement entity, and for Gavin Newsom to decide that the actual state law enforcement should be participating, supporting these things.
Here's the question, though. I posed this question on this show last night because Muriel Bowser, the mayor here in Washington, expressed views that were positive of what the president was doing. And I said last night, if Muriel Bowser's first, I wonder who's next. And Gavin Newsom kind of like opened that door a little bit, and it makes you wonder if more Democrats are going to move in this direction.
Well, he opened the door in that he obviously thinks that crime should be addressed, and it's a good thing when crime goes down. But what Muriel Bowser also said is that the broader impact of having ICE agents descend on D.C., the National Guardsmen armed in D.C. with their armored vehicles, is actually not good for the community.
And they're not in these high crime areas where they're being deployed in D.C. And remember, D.C. is a federal enclave, right?
Yep.
He has a right to do that possibly, but he can't do that in the other major cities in the independent states.
Hear from you both later in the show. Lynda, Scott, thank you so much. Appreciate it.